Well, we welcome you to Conversations and Coffee. To the Fran Ryan Center, which is a wonderful place of welcoming while we are having our beloved Cultural Arts Center renovated. So welcome today. I'm Ellen O'Shaughnessy, coordinator of the program. We're grateful to Kyle Farnbach and faculty and staff here for welcoming us. And we're grateful to Fran Ryan for her leadership in our city in multiple ways through services and programs. Fran is a dedicated champion for the senior citizens community. And thank you to our gathered audience. Thank you for being here. Yeah, let's give you a clap. It's wonderful that you've come out of your way to be here to celebrate Marvin Daniels, painter, sculptor, watercolorist. Yeah. Marvin, you stand up there. Yes. Since your 2016 Conversations and Coffee 10 years ago, you've been our guest artist 3 times, the last being 5 years ago. 'Tis time to have you again. Your story as an artist is a delight. You share that you've been interested in art for as long as you can remember, dabbling in many aspects throughout your youth. You share that you were constantly compelled to draw something. Art classes in school were a definite must. Marvin attended design drafting classes at Eastland Vocational School. You too? Oh, how wonderful. Oh. After high school and entering the workforce, Marvin was never without a notepad in his shirt pocket. He decided to try out a program called AutoCAD. That eventually led him into multiple 3D programs while designing building, plumbing, heating, air conditioning, and ventilation systems. While Marvin and his wife, Kathy, you want to stand up too. You're right part of this whole story. You're raising 2 boys in Alexandria, Ohio. They designed and built an earth berm and a gift to the environment. I looked up earth berm. What a creative endeavor. They're beautiful. And I did make some pictures of them, so I'll pass them around. How many know about an earth berm? Yeah, a berm. And you just settle into the earth and care deeply for our environment. So it's a work of art. In 2011, Marvin retired and started taking classes at the Cultural Arts Center, where clay was the first medium he chose to explore. And eventually, he was creating clay pieces large enough to fill the kilns. My husband and I have one of those, I think. Yes. In 2018, Marvin decided to try out painting instead of pottery, and the Cultural Arts Center had beginners painting classes. Marvin began to lean heavily, he says, toward realism in his painting style, but occasionally stepped out of his comfort zone to do something like abstract painting. 2 years ago, Marvin decided to give another medium a try and started taking watercolor classes here at the Cultural Arts Center. Fran Ryan for us for a while, huh? Here again, he found a wonderful instructor about to teach the class as if no one knew anything about the process. And it enlightened the students into creating something to be proud of very quickly. Over the years of creating artwork at the Cultural Arts Center, Marvin also learned how to market himself as an artist. By joining some local art leagues around Columbus, it made it possible to share and sell his work to the public in several galleries and businesses. And working in the arts, Marvin shares, has given him a lot of opportunities for awards for his works. The shows around Columbus, and that includes the Ohio State Fair. Hey, yeah, he's got a button to, celebrate it in 2024. And you're going to go for it again. Why not, huh? It was quite exciting when he was honored then at the fair. And Marvin, we are just delighted to have you back again.
Thank you very much.
Yes, and sharing your amazing art.
Well, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for being here.
Okay, so I'm Marvin Daniels, and thank you all for coming. I'm going to talk a little bit about my art today. I've done a little bit of research on myself, so I can talk about it to you. You know, it's funny how much you forget, and then you want to, expound on those things to others. It's nice to look back and reflect sometimes, and to see where you've come from in your art world or in your history, if you will. So, as Ellen pointed out, I have been pretty much drawing all my life, even as a little kid, growing up in New Albany, a little one-light town. When I grew up, it's much different today. I was constantly, like she said, compelled to draw. Anytime I was, even just before bedtime, I would just cuddle up on the bed with a little piece of paper and a pencil and just draw my heart out till I fell asleep.
Say it's a one-light town. Were you the one light?
Thank you very much. And I've always had great teachers, throughout my time in school and elementary, and then in the junior high, I started, freelancing, if you will, because a really good friend of mine and I would compete over drawing cars. We just loved drawing cars, and just to create them in a different way than we saw them. A lot of magazines. We were always studying the magazines, looking at ways to draw the cars, and we would create a station wagon out of a regular car, or make them big hot rods, big tires, things like that, just to make them just create cartoonish effect, if you will, to them. So it was always a lot of fun. I think I might even have pictures of a few of those that I brought with me today. This would be one example here. So we just had so much fun to try to create it, not only in just a side view or a front view, but to give it a 3D depth, even at a very young age. Another example would be this one here, to just take a car and let's make it a station wagon, why not? And give it big tires. So we had a lot of fun, and we always competed, back and forth every day and what we were going to draw in study hall. Naturally, we try to get our homework done too. But it was always fun. And then once I got into Eastland Vocational Center, just totally different teaching style altogether. Had some tremendous teachers there. The one I remember the most is Frank Hesse. I don't know if you remember him. He had his master's degree in physics. He taught us so much outside of the realm of teaching drafting, but he still pushed it. You had to get your work done, but he introduced us to a lot of different things, such as one time he gave me the opportunity to meet with the Jacobson Lawnmower Company and to design a grass chute for their lawnmower. So I was able to choose, or he probably helped me choose, the team, and we would work on the design and eventually the marketing and then the making of the tool for their lawnmower. So it was pretty exciting there, and for given that opportunity as a young artist, if you will, it was pretty exciting for us as students. And in addition to that, he one time says, "Okay, let's build a geodesic dome." And a lot of us are thinking, "What is a geodesic dome?" And naturally, we had to find out. We had a lot of study to do it, and then to make it more real to us, he says, "Why don't you come on out to the house," a lot of us students, "and we're going to build one." So he bought the lumber, he bought all the things that we needed to make this out of, and gave us some refreshments, and we spent the weekend building this geodesic dome shed for his backyard. So it was a two-part. He wins, and we win by learning how to make this and understanding all the angles and how to make each piece fit very well together was an art in itself. And again, I looked at it as just another means of artwork. And while taking this class, again, this was my senior year, he asked me to draw all the students climbing around on blocks that had the name design drafting. And I wasn't very good at drawing faces, but I still was able to get the gist of each student and what their feelings were, how they would be reacting, and how they would be climbing around on these blocks together as a family. And that's what he wanted. He wanted a family picture of this classwork. So it was like a win-win again for him. And we just had a blast doing it. So, and it was fun just walking around each student and actually getting to know them a little bit more in order to represent them in this picture or painting or drawing I was making. So it was a lot of fun. And then, let's see, where did he go from there? After school, we decided to get into the workforce. I was fortunate at the time to get in with a company called National Electric Coil. And this wasn't necessarily art related, but I looked at it as art related because I traveled around the world to design, or not to design, but to work on these big dams, power stations, that sort of thing, to generate electricity for the country, and to go to places like Washington State. I went there a couple times, 6 months at a time. Kathy and I were still dating then. We had to work out our time together. But it was a learning experience going out there and seeing the beauty of the country in addition to just seeing around our little city we lived in. So this, again, ignited me to want to go back to all these places that I had been. Another thing that loved about that was the fact that I could travel with ease. And back then, everybody was wearing suit and ties, if you remember, to travel in airplanes and to travel at all, So we were always dressing up to wherever we went, only to get into rags and riches when we were on the job site. But it was fun. Eventually, though, I got in with the Plumbers and Pipefitters Union and started to work in construction. And at that point, started to see how things work together from a little one-line drawing on a blueprint. And I started thinking, how could I expound on that one-line drawing? So I started redrawing these drawings in three-dimensional views. And so all the other workers around me could see how things would work together and how they could manage and fabricate even some of these piping or systems we were installing. So it was an enlightening thing for me to be able to share my artwork with them and at the same time make the job site more efficient. Well, this was fun, but I decided at one point, let's go a little bit farther with that. So a friend of mine, he was an engineer, he gave me this program called AutoCAD. Said, you should really try this out. I think you're going to enjoy it. And so I did. I loaded it up on my computer at home and I practiced for a year. He gave me the book and everything. I said, oh my gosh, this is incredible. And just learning and learning and learning how this program worked and how it could be used in a setting more so than just the 2D drawings, to change things to three-dimensional, to give them shape. And so eventually it turns out to look like this in a drawing. So we were now coordinating systems together to create these beautiful pictures to most people, but it was making things more efficient, making things work together. Each craft knew where they needed to be, and it was just a nice puzzle to work with. And then we would eventually, let's see if I got that, there it is. So then eventually we start drawing little fabrication pieces to fit in a puzzle. So we could do these off-site in a fabrication shop where the weather and conditions are right, and we could see how everything was supposed to work together. And to me, it was just another form of artwork. But to the contractors and the people doing the work, this was a great tool to help them be more efficient to work inside and to have fun. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it just kind of reminds me of Leonardo, you know, how he created stuff and he did art and then he liked the mechanical stuff.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
You know, it just looks like you're just in the same realm in your brain as Leonardo.
And you never think of it that way as an artist, but you know, I can see your point at it very
You
well.
look at his work and you see he loved art,
Yes, sir.
but he loved the mechanical part
Right.
of making stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much. So this was like I said, a lot of fun doing this, and eventually it led to bigger jobs, bigger developments, places to work, such as Anheuser-Busch, Ohio State University Hospital, different companies around the Columbus area. And so, again, I got to continue working with my art, if you will, doing design work. And I did this for 15 years before I finally decided to retire. But that was 15 years of great progress, I think, for our city and for the businesses that we were working with. And it was fun teaching others people, too, how to use the program to make their lives better and to better things for the company. So it's just a win-win, I think, throughout the industry. And now almost all the contractors are using these tools today to coordinate these jobs far and ahead of their construction. And so it's just a blessing, I think, to see that come out of all of this work throughout the years. Yes?
You say the program is called?
AutoCAD is the initial program. A lot of them now are using a program called QuickPen, which the architects and engineers like that a little bit more. And so it's just like an add-on, if you will, to the AutoCAD program. And then there's other programs such as Navisworks. So Navisworks allows all the contractors to enter their program or their files into one file, and then we can look at everybody's stuff at the same time. We can almost do an entire walk through the building to see if there's any collisions, any problems before the building's even built now. Yes, sir.
And I like how engineers, how they use color.
Yes.
You know, and it's just like the diagram you had back there.
Yes.
Certain colors does certain things, and you can automatically look at it. Oh, that's the pipe.
Yes, we all know what our color is. So it's a very coordinated effort. Thank you. So again, I was working over 15 years in that, and then decided one day, let's start thinking about what I'm going to do in retirement, because that time is coming soon. And so I decided to try out a little pottery class in my local community to see how that was going to work out. And it was a lot of fun, and it gave me some insights into, you know, what it was going to be like, you know, in not only retirement, but working with a new toy, a new medium, a new thing to do in my life. And so then after I did that for about a year, Kathy and I came down to Columbus for one of the art shows, the Columbus Arts Festival, and just happened to walk into the Cultural Arts Center. And sure enough, here was people out there creating clay pieces, creating paintings, creating so much things that I was just like overwhelmed. This is incredible what's going on here in this little facility. And then I was really fascinated with what they were doing with pottery. And so they were making big stuff, and I want to do that. But I got to make time to take those classes, and so I did. I signed up for classes the following year just to see and get a taste of what it was going to be like to make the big stuff. And my instructor, I think at the time, was named Walter Herman. So that was a fun time. He made it fun. He made it educational. And the beauty of, I think, taking classes here, and this is something he pointed out, was the fact that most of the teachers, instructors, have already done all the work for you. They've already done the method acting, if you will. They've proven time and time again how the artwork works, how the medium works, how to fire it, how to color it, to make everything work. And they've taken all that away from you. So all you have to do is go and create. And that's the fun part we like. We go and we create, and we typically come away with a piece after just one session that we're proud of, you know, we've made. And then what are we going to do the next session? And what are we going to do the next session? It just repeats itself, if you will. Yes?
Yeah. solving problems, is very interesting in the industrial world. And I always like seeing the engineers trying to figure out how to do this and how to do that.
Yeah.
It's like they're using their brains, but they're trying to grasp the reality on how it goes.
Correct.
Does that make any sense?
Yes, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, seeing the engineers that I talk to, this and that, and the problem solving.
Yes, and it's always fun working with the engineers too, having that one-on-one, understanding more and more about what they're thinking.
Helps your brain.
It does. Understand that.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Started out as an engineer.
No, I've never done any engineering, but I worked with engineers all the time with these buildings. But I just took the next step and helped them design it in 3D so they could see what they were designing in a better way, knowing that it was going to work. So that we were like problem solving together as a team. And it was a great tool. So then, let's see, where was I? Oh, so then I decided to take those classes at the Cultural Arts Center and started understanding more and more all the tools and ideas you needed to know how to create these bigger pieces so that it wouldn't fall apart. Because once they get into that kiln, you never know really what's going to happen when it's being fired at, say, 2,500 degrees. So you got to really understand the dynamics of the clay and how it works. And that was the beauty of the teachers there. They were helping to explain the connecting techniques so that we could make a better piece that we could be proud of when it comes out of the kiln. And that was the final straw there, was the coming out of the kiln. So after doing several shows, that was a lot of fun, especially working with pottery, getting to be juried into a show at the studio in Highs. That was exciting, especially to be amongst other artists and to share my work with the public there, and then to be enlightened with a nice award the first time out. It was just really exciting, and also helped to teach me, okay, what can I do next? What's next on the agenda? What piece could I be making? And so I ended up making much larger pieces and finding utility in them, and sometimes just making them into a different world, combining them with photography. So here is a photograph that I took of my time in Washington State on this beautiful lake, and what better way than to exemplify it with the 3D pieces of pottery mounted to the same board to share and to make things look better that way. Another idea was here's the vase that got into the Studio in High show. This is almost 2 feet tall, and then instead of glazing it, I decided to paint it with acrylics so I could get the better blending going on with the sunset and the colors. And both sides are different. One's a little city scene, the other side's a lake scene. So no matter how you place it in your home, you've got a different view of things.
And these are the large pieces for the kiln at the Cultural Arts
These
Center.
are large pieces from the kiln. So this goes even a step further. I believe I've made a piece that you've taken that has a saxophone. I don't have a picture of the saxophone, but believe me, it works really well. And this works pretty much the same way as a saxophone, whereas you can take and put a cell phone in the back of the neck, and the sound will travel through the head and come out the mouth and amplify this noise or the music. And so that's what happened with this pieces over here. I've created
Show us that.
this piece here, and this is just two horns, and it has a cell phone slot, and it works really well. See if I can show it to you here for a moment. So you hear your cell phone, but now we got it stereo. So it's a fun little toy to play with. it'd probably work really, really well on the beach.
And that's the way our saxophone works. It's exciting.
And that's how the saxophone, it's probably even louder because it has this bigger horn on it. So I had a lot of fun, learning how the pottery works so I can understand how to make it work with the music. And that was so much even more fun when this piece came along to try to mimic a famous songwriter and musician, Bob Seger. That's kind of what I modeled it after.
I like that idea. Have you tried to license that? Or?
No, just have fun with it.
Yeah, sometimes them simple little things sometimes really hit.
And I've seen people just take that and just take the solo cups and just cut them apart and glue them together or tape them together and make their own out of solo cups.
Kind of like the happy face, who thought about patenting the happy face?
Yeah.
He's a multi, it's just
Of
a
course.
simple idea.
Yeah, I never gave that any thought. I just had so much fun with it. And
I seen that, it's like, how simple can that be?
right. And one of those, I had two of them. So one of them naturally sold in one of my shows I had at the Culture Arts Center. So that was a lot of fun. And so this is just another example of that. Here's another piece. It was just fun to make, The beauty of this piece is that there's no bottom in it, so it can sit outside pretty much year round. You probably don't want snow to get on it. Snow would definitely cause the glazing to crackle, if you will. So you want to avoid that. But for the most part, you could put a vase in the back of this. There's a hole in the top too, on the back side of the head. And you can put a vase back here and still have flowers in it in your garden. So this was one of the pieces that during a solo show I had here at the Culture Arts Center sold right away. It was very attractive. And not only that one, but this one. And this was a nice experiment with the underglazes, so trying to create the flowers on the side and give it some depth. So I really loved building with colors with the underglaze. And this was a fun piece to make. And again, it's hollow on the bottom, but you can probably put a 10-inch pot in the top and still have a nice flower piece in your garden. Then we had to go a little step farther. Had to create Jaws. And Jaws always looks great out in the flower bed. He keeps the deer away. And
I'll take 10.
You can make some money on that.
and again, he's got an open bottom, so he's not going to fill up with water and flood the place. And just so much fun. And in fact, I think when I first made it, my granddaughter had to stick her head inside the mouth just to see how big it was. It's quite fun. So, yeah, another fun piece, and that's our guard snail. So again, it's hollow in the bottom. You can probably put about a 10-inch flower pot in the hole in the top, and that's sitting at our front door, guarding a door for us. Again, he's undercover, so he'll never see snow actually land on him. But if he does, we'll wipe him off quickly. But that's our keepsake there, I think. Yes, sir.
How did you get it so red?
That was the underglaze. I just kept building and building on the colors so it's about probably 3 or 4 layers of that orange to really make it stand out.
That's a really bright red.
Yes, it really is.
Seeing it in ceramic set.
And then on each side, there's a different scene that's painted on there, whether it be just a bunch of birds flying on this side, but there's different scenes, a mountain scene on the back side. So just something to play with too, to share. But yeah, I had fun with that. And I think since then too, I've even made it a little top hat and glued to the top of his head, just to give him a little whimsy too. But those are fun. Those are fun to make. And again, it probably spent 2 months building that in the Culture Arts Center, and then probably waiting another month or so to get it fired and be able to take it home. But the end results were just so much fun. And each one of the big pieces typically take about 2 months for me to build anyway. And here's the crew. Here's some of the crew out there in the yard. I had to bring them home and just take a picture of them together. So there's others. The work boot, that was a fun piece to make. And these are all outdoor art, yes. A lot of fun. Again, I wouldn't leave them out in the snow, but you can leave them out all year round pretty much for that matter. Then I got into painting. So in 2018, I decided let's change up here a little bit. Because part of the problem with pottery is trying to get it into a gallery show or trying to get it in any show, for that matter, that doesn't have pedestals or doesn't have wall shelves. And so let's try something different. So I decided let's jump into painting. So I started taking painting at the Culture Arts Center in 2018 under the teaching of Michael Ganan. And I really love Michael because he just not only taught you how to paint and how to work with the contrasts and different aspects of painting, but he taught you about the history of painting, the different artists and how their styles were and how they interacted with different mediums to create what they were doing. And it was just so much of an education and not just building of a painting, but the building of your knowledge of artwork and how it works with each other. So I really enjoyed his classes. And after a couple years, working, doing the color wheel, learning the color mixing, things like that, it became almost secondhand to me then at that point. And then I moved up to an intermediate level where I start painting on my own with just a little bit of instruction when I needed it. It was really nice. It's a more comfortable setting. And I could paint at my own pace at that point in time.
The precision of the drawing, striking.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
Oh.
And that's the beauty.
Hours doing just a field, huh?
Yeah, and that's the beauty of I would typically, and this is a good example where initially I would start painting just exactly what I saw in a photograph. But after a while, I came more comfortable and I started taking, this was a photograph that a friend of mine had taken. I loved the abandoned building that he had taken a picture of. And I thought, let's add a silo, let's add a windmill, let's add other elements, let's add this tall grass. And all of this together melded together into this scene. Yes, sir.
Director of the canvas.
I never thought of it that way. That's a good idea, yeah.
You're working on the canvas and,
Yes, sir.
well, I don't like it here, but
Right.
everybody likes it there.
Right.
I'm looking at the photograph, it works here.
Yes, sir.
And it's trying to get it all in your brain, how to make it work.
Yes, and that goes to tell you too, a lot of artists tell you how to crop everything in so that it's more pleasing to the eye. So everything needs to be evolving around the center, but things need to be still expounding past the center to bring interest throughout the painting. And that's why I really enjoyed working with Michael and some of the other instructors now I've taken classes with here at the Culture Arts Center. They really push you, what's going on back here, what's going on there, and it really helps you with color formation and contrast and things like that really help us as artists.
I like how you did the clouds and the windmill in the back. It gives a lonely...
Just an airy feeling is what I was kind of going for. Yeah.
I always like to share when Newt gives observations that when we went to Paris with the Soners 10 years ago, we had drawing lessons along the Seine.
Oh my gosh.
And Newt was one of us. And the instructor said, this guy should be teaching this class. So when I hear him asking the questions, it's coming from an amazing sense
Yes.
of the art that you're expressing. That background is gorgeous.
And so I kind of stayed with that theme too in this painting, because we were out west and I had a painting of this barn. It was much further away, but let's zoom in on that. Let's detail it, and let's add some other elements. Let's put it on a hill. Let's add a little bit of depth to it with the mountains in the background. But let's do one more thing. Let's add this tractor out front that's probably been there longer than the barn, and just add more depth and interest to the piece. Then here, this is a photo, or this came from a photograph from a friend of mine in New Albany. His property was being wiped out from Intel, but he wanted to remember this lake that he had on his property that he used to fish out all the time. And so I recreated this. This is a 2 feet by 3 feet long painting. And so I also learned how to create the board itself, because this is on MDF board, 1/4-inch MDF board, and I gessoed the board. Then I slathered on a lot of acrylic on top of that. Then to make sure that the moisture didn't cause this board to warp, I added framing on the backside to it so it wouldn't warp or anything. And then on that framing, then I was able to add the external frame around it, perimeter, to finish it off. And so this was a fun piece. The owner really enjoyed this remembrance of his lake.
That's a remarkable idea to get there before Intel does, and then do the art, and then sell it as you walk in the door.
Right. And that's the sad part about what's going on around a lot of the things that are being built around Columbus right now is there's nobody really going in and looking at the grounds, digging in the dirt, seeing if there's any remnants of history there in these areas that will just go to waste. And fortunately, there is the New Albany Historical Society does try to get into those areas to look at them, but sometimes construction is faster than they can get out there and look at these properties. So shamefully, some things are going to be lost. But it's always beautiful. I am part of New Albany Historical Society, and I have seen what they've done in several occasions where they've gone to lands that have been sold, and they got in there early. They did some digging. They took their metal detectors and found bits and pieces and soldiers' buttons for their uniforms, different pieces of utensils, things like that came from history, and beautifully saved by the Historical Society. So it's nice to see that they're still active in doing that. So here's another fun piece. Try to bring a little whimsy into it. I just enjoyed the manatees, and they're just a big, heavy body floating around in the water. But what better way than to show them sharing the water and having fun together, and just a nice whimsical piece. And I was doing a series of underwater pieces anyway, so I thought, why not manatees? So naturally, this piece ended up back down in Florida, where they started from.
I'd name that piece Mr. and Mrs.
Mr. and Mrs. I like it, yeah. And then to go even more whimsical, end up that series, I thought, why not just do an octopus? But what's the octopus going to be doing in the water? Well, he's going to be painting. He's doing some plein air himself. So he's going to plein air the guy snorkeling in front of him. So just to make it more fun, and it's a challenge too, but at the same time, trying to give that image that your octopus is painting. And naturally, this sold right away. It was a fun piece, and some lady really liked it. In our travels, we like to do a lot of traveling, and so this was a travel down into Florida one February for my wife's mother's birthday celebration. So why not check out Naples? This is the Naples beach. This was probably just a few months, I think, 2 or 3 months before the hurricane hit that really devastated Fort Myers and parts of Naples. I think downtown Naples was like 6 feet underwater for some time. So that was a nice little thing to have to remember that time in Florida. And actually, we still have it. And what I enjoyed about painting this was a lot of people show the sunset with the water coming in, but I wanted to see that water going back out, because it's a feeling of rushing water when it goes back out, and trying to just share that feeling through the painting. And at the same time, try to show a couple of dolphins in the water and some people in the water, and just show how human nature is reacting with the dolphins and the sunset. And it's just such an attraction anyway for anybody that's on the beach to just rush and watch the water every evening. Yes, sir?
I like how the sun is hitting the sand and how you made it look wet.
And that was what I was trying to do. Thank you for noticing.
And it just came out so nice how you just made it look wet.
Yeah, thank you.
I agree with that. You don't see you see the reflection
Right.
in the water,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't see what you've created there, which probably was there, right?
Yes. And I did a separate painting doing just that, just showing the water coming clear up here, and you see the thin layer of water and the reflection of the sun on that. I did that painting too, but that one didn't stay with me very long, so I had to create another one. But I like this one more because you just get that feeling of the water rushing out, and remember that, as you were walking on the beach that day.
So, I know you became a painter. Did you always do art, or did you just learn it?
Ever since I was a kid, I was drawing.
You were always good.
I was always drawing, and my parents, they fed me with pencils, paper, paint brushes, watercolors, even gave me a wood burning set one year for Christmas, because my birthday was in Christmas, so I got all the good stuff at the Christmas time. But yeah, I was always given these tools from my parents. They saw the art in me and kept feeding that fire, if you will.
You wanted to do it.
I did want to do it. Yeah, I was just excited about creating all the time. If it was just doodling on a notepad, I just enjoyed doing that. And so here's another painting where I created using 3 different photographs. One was the little bridge, and I just enjoyed seeing that. And I thought, well, you know what? Let's add the little waterfall trickling in the background to give it a little bit more depth. And then to bring it even more life, take the sun hitting the tops of these trees and bring that light into the scene, and then showing the reflection on the water. And all of that together in my mind, I could see it, but I had to utilize different photographs in order to achieve the final results.
You have another bridge here.
And I do, yes.
That's beautiful. What's under that bridge? Some of your humor there?
Well, it is. And so sometimes I go off a little, after a painting sits around for a while, I decide, let's recreate. So this is a recreation. Originally, it was just the bridge. It was just blank sky. It didn't have a lot of character, if you will, but it looked nice at the time, and it came directly from a photograph. But let's add some mountains to this. Let's see what that looks like. And that was nice. But let's go another step. Let's add an alien ship under the bridge. So right down at the bottom here, we have a little alien ship there. Up in the sky, you can see this pyramid-style cloud with another little alien ship up in the sky here. Let's just bring some more interest into it and see what happens. Again, it's just a bit of whimsy to add to the fun of painting. So I had fun with that. And as we were talking about some of these over here, this was my first watercolor I did in high school. And so I just, again, I was still working with the cars, but let's add some color and let's add some watercolor to it. And so that made it a lot of fun. And then this is a recent watercolor that I did. So this is just and I can share this if you want, just be careful, it does have glass, but it's a fun piece of just an old canning jar with some flowers around it, just to bring a little interest to it. I love the honey color, how it really brightens the piece up. Yes, sir.
Just
Out of curiosity, where was that Brown Bridge originally? What part of the country was it in?
This was a sunny day when I took the picture, but I said, let's make it a winter scene. So again, this is just one of our walks in a park. We do a lot of hiking and walks around, and it was probably in Ohio. So I'm going with that right now. But we do so much traveling that sometimes I just can't keep it all in together. But it was fun.
Well, as you're over here, tell us about this work that is a sculptured.
So then I started, in pottery. I was having fun, making those big vessels, but I had to think about how can I get this into these art shows and hanging on walls in these art shows. So let's start doing this. Let's make the pieces so that they can hang on the wall. And so there's naturally still a wire on it, just like because it has the wood frame, but it's got some depth now to it. So all the little bits and pieces are, if you will, glued on using the pottery techniques, but to create the steps, to create the table, the chairs, everything is just little pieces that were added onto the sheet of clay to give it more depth, and then just to paint with the underglazes in order to give it the colors that I want. So that was a lot of fun, and then I was asked to do again once.
That's our doggie.
And so
we had for 17 years.
We did this piece of her dog, and I just loved working on this and just utilizing the underglazes to get the more detailed colors, the shading, and to add the texture.
Marvin, you
Yes, sir.
helped us keep the memory, again,
Yes, thank you.
of one of our favorite dogs.
One of your favorite dogs?
Always part of our family, and that one was very special, and you.
And it meant a lot to me doing that, because.
Thank you so much.
And especially to go and deliver that was a touching point in my life and in my artwork. Yes.
As you matured,
Yes.
did you start using more color, or did you always use a lot of color?
I've always liked color. I always like color. Bolder the better sometimes. Sometimes these are probably more muted in real life, but I like to expound on that a little bit and just bring them to life with more color, bold colors. Especially, you see a lot of people doing landscapes, and whenever you see that light shining through the trees and hitting, and that golden tree lights up, that's just what just lights up my mind. I gotta paint or draw that. Just love how that interacts with nature. And then to add a little more to that, here's some pieces too that I've also done. If you want to share these are just copies of the pieces. You'll notice I have one piece in there that has a Monopoly game board. That was a fun piece to create. Let's see if I have it here. There it is right there. So not only is it just a Monopoly board, but look, they're playing with the dice. They're playing with the pieces. So yes. So that was the challenge. Got to make it real. Got to give that little piece of money, a shadow under it. You got to really work at that. So, and that was the beauty of having a good instruction at the Culture Arts Center. They were able to lead me in the right direction to give those little things, this little white line or that little darkness under the edge of the board, just to give it that depth, to see it, sitting there on that table, to see the little cards with a little shadow under them, just knowing that, that's real. It almost looks real. And many people, when they see it, they go, "Oh, is that real or not?" So I enjoy that part, is just sharing that ability to show that.
You have a lot of patience.
You want to say that again here on the microphone?
I said, you have a lot of patience.
Well,
You
thanks.
have to have a lot of patience to do something like that.
And it does take time, and you're just always encouraged by what the outcome's going to be. It's kind of like I can see it before it's done, and I want it to look exactly the way I have it in my mind. And that, I guess that's just something I was born with, being able to see things like that. Kind of like when I was doing the 3D modeling for these programs, for these contractors, I could see it, others could not. Many people look at a 2D drawing, blueprint, and they don't know what that line is doing. But I visually see it before it goes out in the field. So just an aptitude I have. So once I got into watercolors, everything changed though. I had another, I think it was 2 years ago, I started taking watercolor classes here at the Cultural Arts Center again. And Marshawn is the teacher there. And she just took every student as if they knew nothing about the medium whatsoever. We're going to teach you every brush stroke, every way to move that water, every way to move the color, every way to mix that color. And it was so enjoyable to learn something new and exciting because you had to think differently with watercolor. You had to think about the negatives first before you start thinking about the positives in color. And so this is part of an example of that. She says, just paint some flowers and let's see what you got. So I just took what I learned from her after a year and said, let's try a little bit of blue or try a little dark green. Let's leave these tips of the leaves blank so that they add, the shape. So that was what I had fun with. And let's see, I just want to go back because this was on. So this is one of the first pieces I did in her class. And just give us a picture of this boat, make it on the water, but give it some shape, give it some texture. So I had a lot of fun with this piece because I wanted it to just look like it was docked. It was forever going to never be on the water again. But give it some depth, give it some character. So had fun with creating this piece.
And drawing was such a natural to you.
It was. It pretty much came naturally to me. And it's always fun with acrylics because I can change it in an instant. The unfortunate part about watercolor, you can't change it too much after you've created it. The techniques are just not there to do it yet, I guess. Especially to remove color and then to add color back in. So this was another challenge that she gave me. Do the waterfall, but the wanted is to accentuate the rocks. It was all about the rocks. It wasn't necessarily about the watercolor fall or the trees or anything. The rocks was the study, and to give them the shape and the shadows and the depth to help them make them part of the scene. And so this was quite the challenge, and thankfully I had a buyer for this piece. Then this is another acrylic painting. So I was starting to do a little study on entrance for Italian village residents, since they're basically sometimes in those villages they're just a wall of buildings, and then here's a door and here's a window, and so everybody has their own character space, if you will. So I just enjoyed creating this space for this particular residence, and to show the trees growing around the door and the flowers in the pots, and to see all the stonework around it. I just had so much fun creating this to give it the depth that it needed. And then this was another commission piece. So this is 6 feet long. It's 3 20-inch panels connected together on one board. And this is a good friend of ours. Their property. They had this lake. They had a nice view, but I changed it a little bit. I said, let's put the sun over on this side of the house, because normally it's off to the right. So we can show these shadows coming through the woods, and to give it the real depth and interest, with the sunlight, and to play with that a little bit and show it. So I had a lot of fun with this piece, and I think they enjoyed it too.
And I was going to ask Kathy. She had any thoughts to share for a minute.
I had some, but then I lost it.
Say something, guys.
He's always been artistic, and I've always tried to encourage him. Especially he likes photography. He'll pull off the road and take a picture. He did it on the freeway in downtown Columbus and scared me to death. I'm serious. He said, no one's coming. I'm like, oh. I'm just looking around. Yeah, but he's just art is what he does, so, and I'm proud of him.
You likely give him wonderful humor. I can just tell by the way you do it.
I'm one of the people that says, draw it for me, because I can't picture.
Draw for me. Oh, that's good.
And it always came in life in the family too. I was always probably one to helping the kids with the dioramas, or let's create a nice birthday cake for somebody, and let's decorate it. And so I was the decorator. But I want to thank you all for coming out today and hearing my story and sharing my work with you all. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Oh, yes. Great celebration. And we thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Oh, Marvin.
Thank you very
great.
much. And thanks for coming.
Okay. And we're so delighted you're here. I loved what you said about this little life under this bridge to me. Everybody come up and peek. It's wonderful.
Yes,
And
thank you.
as you were asking, how do you do this for all these hours? I do think your humor carries you. And yours too, Kathy.
Yeah, she laughs at me a lot.
She does. Oh, that's beautiful. Okay.
I like her phrase, draw for me. I think that's the title of your book. All of us want you to draw something.
Draw for me.
Draw
That's
for
great.
us.
Okay. Well,
Well, thanks
happy
again.
days.
Thanks again.